welcome back to my channel. I've started a new series of helpful tips and tricks and just funny sewing videos I thought we could all enjoy together. Let me know if you want me to try any and show you if they work or not. Please enjoy it and let me know what you think. Bye.
Hello and welcome to Sewing Safety with Kiki, because some of y'all are trying to lose a damn finger. Okay, safety tip number one. You're sewing. Oh, I need to adjust my fabric. Take your foot off the dang foot pedal. Oh, don't worry, I'm being safe. I'm making sure not to press. No! Take your foot off. If you don't, I don't care if you lose a finger. Okay, that was mean. Number two, machine off when we're threading our needles. Do you want to lose a finger, fingernail, hand? Number three, this is optional. I like to wear glasses sometimes when I'm serging. Why? Because she is a dangerous machine. Okay, you're sewing. Boom! A needle breaks. Boom! Flying straight into your eye. It's optional. If you want to keep an eye, you can wear the glasses. If you don't have to wear them. I don't usually wear them all the time, but I used to when I was new because I sucked. Or you're using a rotary cutter. Close it before you put it down. Shanna, don't yell at me. No! Do you want to lose a finger? Bella wants to lose a finger. Bella doesn't close this. Hi. I have all my fingers. Close it! Last tip. I see any one of you rotary cutting towards your body, done. Canceled. I have literally seen many videos of people, do you want to die? No! Okay, I didn't see people like die. I've seen people go right over their fingers. You go out, not in. This has been an aggressive educational video. I hope everyone has a fabulous day, a fabulous, safe day. Bye!
Genius sewing hack to stop your fabric from fraying really badly when you pre-wash it. Simply overlock or zigzag stitch down all of the raw edges before you put them in the wash. Pop it in for its pre-wash, and when it's done, you just get a nice neat edge and not a fray in sight. If you like this genius hack, please do like and share and follow along for more.
Let me tell you a sewing secret. This is how to sew the perfect hem every time. Always iron the fabric first, then sew a straight line 1 centimeter away from the selvage. The seam will make it easier to fold, and iron the selvage without measuring or drawing a line. Fold the hem twice and iron again to make it perfect. Sew 1 centimeter away from the edge of the fold. So satisfying.
How does this crazy tool help you in sewing? Well, these 3 tools all turn tubes. This one's called a turn-it-all. This one's called a loop turner. It's got a little hook on the end. And this one's called multi-purpose point and tube turner. So this is just good for anything that you, long skinny tubes that you need turned inside right, like spaghetti straps, hair scrunchies. It works great.
You're sewing something where the stitches will be visible, like a label. An easy way to make it look better is to not backstitch. As you're sewing, if you also notice your needle will stitch beyond where you want it to, you can change your stitch length to a shorter one. Do a stitch, then change it back. When you get to the end, again, don't backstitch and make sure you leave a long thread tail. Then take your 2 long threads. Use a regular needle and pull those threads to the back. Then tie them together with the 2 bobbin threads and trim away the excess.
Now this is something I can get behind. Let me know if you use this little secret stash for anything nice.
This sewing hack has saved me more than once. To open up your buttonhole, simply place a pin at the top and the bottom just before the bar tacks. Insert your unpicker and gently press down. By placing the pins at each end, this provides a natural stop for your unpicker, making sure you don't tear the whole thing wide open. If you like this sewing hack, make sure to like, save and follow for more sewing tips and tricks.
This next video absolutely blew my mind. I don't know how. I've not seen or heard of this before, but I'm definitely going to try it.
I just saw one of the best sewing tips I think I've ever seen. It's a comment and I lost it, so I'm not sure who this is coming from, so if it's you, let me know. But basically they said that they take a thin sheet of metal and they put it under their cutting mat, and then when they put their fabric and their sewing pattern on top of it, they use like really strong magnets to hold the sewing pattern and the fabric down on the cutting mat, which is actually so genius.
Back at it again with another sewing hack, and this is how I organize my pattern. I have all my patterns in binders, and each binder is a pattern company. I then have all my patterns in acetate, and every style is in an acetate, and the sizes are paper clipped together, so it's all organized. You can have your own system as long as it makes sense. Follow for more tips.
Is there anything more glorious, stressful than sewing with 100% silk? Here's some tips. Iron with the grain of the fabric once you have it blocked. Mark the right side of your fabric with a pin. Use a cutting mat and rotary cutter on a single layer. Utilize clips to hold the lengthwise and cross grain in place while you smooth. And as always, respect your grain lines measuring to ensure accuracy.
How to make a tiny spaghetti strap. Grab your bias tape and fold it in half. Start sewing with a wider seam, maybe around 6mm, and then slowly taper it down to about 3mm. This tapering trick is key because it makes flipping the tube inside out way easier later on. Then trim down the seam allowance. Use thick double thread and a large needle, securing that thread with the wider end. And then you gotta work that needle eye through the whole tube until it's all scrunched up. And be careful not to bog yourself. Once done, gently tug on the thread to flip the tube right side out. You can use the needle eyes to coax any stubborn bits inside, and when you get the top started, the rest is easy. It does require a little bit of patience, but the satisfying result is so worth it. I use them to make button loops and they turned out always perfect.
They say never to use your rotary cutter on paper. Here's why that's wrong. It's tempting to use a rotary cutter on paper because it's faster, it's easier on your hands, and it makes fewer paper scraps. The only problem is the blade gets dull real fast and it can snag your fabric. So here's the solution. Get a separate rotary cutter just for paper. Label them so you know which rotary cutter.
Have you ever wondered what this little red piece of felt is with your sewing machine? It's meant to go on the spool pin below your spool of thread. And what this does is it helps it turn more evenly. Sometimes the machine pulls our thread with a little bit more force and it can make it turn more than it needs to. This often causes jamming. What this little piece of felt does is it has a little bit of grip on the underside of the spool and prevents it from overturning. This way your machine will jam less.
Here are some tips and tricks for working with silk fabric. Silk is so beautiful, so soft, so luxurious, but it can absolutely be a nightmare to work with if you don't know what you're doing. To start, you're going to want to use a self-healing mat and a rotary cutter to cut out your pieces. This is because silk is so slippery. If you try to use scissors, it's going to slip around and you're not going to be able to cut out your pattern correctly. You can also layer silk between something like tissue paper or muslin, and that way it's going to prevent it from slipping around. Now, when you actually start sewing, you're going to want to use a microtex needle and a lightweight cotton thread. I would not recommend using silk because silk tends to break, especially for seams. So cotton is usually the best way to go. I would use anywhere from 50 to 100 weight. Depending on the machine, you can even lower your presser foot height a little bit and so that everything glides smoothly and it doesn't get distorted. As for your stitch settings, typically a straight stitch is going to be your best bet. And you're going to want to move it to a smaller setting, so I use 1.5 to 2 millimeters. And if your machine just keeps eating the fabric, you can use a piece of stabilizer on top of it. And this might be a personal preference, but I prefer not to use pins on silk fabric at all. I know there are silk pins that are safe to use, but I just like to use these little fabric clips. I got this set off of Amazon for like $1, I'm pretty sure, and there's like 50 clips in it. If you need to iron silk, always make sure to use the lowest heat setting. Silk scorches very easily, so you can either use the lowest heat setting or a pressed cloth on top of it. Hopefully these tips make sewing silk a little bit easier for you.
Tips for working with lightweight fabrics. Use a rotary cutter instead of scissors. Scissors can pull the fabric and distort your edges. Regular needles can snag delicate fabrics. Use a size 70 or 10 microtex instead for a cleaner finish. Set your stitch length to around 1.5 millimeters. Longer stitches can pucker, but shorter ones keep seams smooth and strong. Follow for more tips to help you feel confident and creative every time you sew.
Cannot believe I can finally master the baby hand.
Show me the life hack that you randomly saw one day that is now an unconscious standard practice in your life. I'll go first.
Hold up. You've been telling me that I've been wrestling and being a floor goblin on the floor for all these years, and I could have just done this instead.
There's a really common beginner mistake people make that stops them from making nice straight stitches like this. These lines, and then keep your eye focused there on the line, not on the needle. And after a couple of practice runs, you should find that your stitches start becoming a lot smoother and a lot straighter.
size you need. Place a mark at each end of the button and then connect those marks with a straight line. Next, you'll need this special presser foot. Remove your current foot and snap this one into place. Now, position your fabric so that the mark closest to you sits right under the hole in the presser foot. Normally, your thread tails go behind the machine, but this time, place them on the side so that they don't get caught while sewing. Otherwise, your buttonhole might end up looking like this. Now, set your machine to the buttonhole settings. You'll see 3 options labeled from A to D. Start by selecting A. Sew a few stitches and then stop. Make sure the needle is up and switch to B. Continue sewing until you reach the second mark you made. Switch to C, which is the same position as A, and sew a few stitches. Then move to D and sew all the way back to where you started. Finally, switch back to A and add a couple of securing stitches before removing your fabric. Now, open up the buttonhole using the seam river.
Instead of using paper patterns, I use plastic ones so they last longer. I get mine from the tablecloth section in the fabric shop. Trace the pattern you want to use. Use permanent marker to prevent ink transfer. Cut the plastic pattern out. Done and ready to use.
Months ago, I saw the best sewing hack I'd ever seen on TikTok, and I don't know who posted it, so if anybody does, please tag them. I want to thank them. This has saved me so much time. You just, when you're hand sewing, take the thread, wrap it around the end of the needle, and then slide that little knot down to the end, and every time you have a perfect knot to start sewing. Oh my God.
Your smile lit up like a sunrise glow. Touch so soft where the seasons flow. We met where the stars take their flight. Every moment with you feels just right. Whisper your name in the rush of the breeze. Love like an ocean rippling with ease. Heartbeats sink into this melody. You and I forever, wild and free. Hands collide like waves on the shore. Every touch leaves me crazy.
Here's how to turn your corners from this to this. When you're ready to turn a corner, drop your needle down into the fabric, lift your presser foot, rotate the fabric, then lower the foot and continue sewing. So again, you're gonna drop your needle down into the fabric, lift your presser foot, rotate the fabric, put your presser foot back down, then continue on. Follow for more sewing tips.
Genius sewing hack for getting perfectly lined up boxy corners every time. Shout out to Notches Sewing for this brilliant tip. And it saves so much time. You just simply sew up to the end of your fabric. And don't bother back tacking and cutting the thread and starting at the next edge. You simply just take your bottom part of the boxy corner, pivot it, line it up so it's the same seam depth, and then keep sewing. So it will look something like this, and then you simply pinch the fabric and line up the edges, but because you've sewn those pieces together, they naturally sit in the right position. So just flatten your two seams, and once everything's sitting nice and flat, just head back to the sewing machine to sew it up. And when you turn it to the right side out, you've got a perfectly lined up boxy corner. Big shout out again to Notches Sewing for this. If you're not following them, I strongly suggest you do. And if you like this, do like, share and follow for more.
It's difficult to finish the binding smoothly from the neckline and armhole to the end point. Just stitch over, aligning the top and bottom edges closely, and backstitch to finish. Next, lay out the front section of the strip. Then turn the bottom strip to cross the top strip at a 90-degree angle. So diagonally, backstitch to secure it, and trim off the excess. This method makes the neckline binding joint both neat and fast.
Every sewer has tools they love. Here are mine. Sewer, seamstress, sewist, whatever you want to call yourself. This buttonhole gauge is used to evenly space out buttonholes, but I love using it to space out grommets on my corset too. These pens are my favorite for marking up fabric. They disappear with heat, like magic, or science. This soldering tool makes the perfect size buttonholes, and it also seals the edges. This grommet press saves me from having to hammer. It easily presses in the grommet. This gadget, I've actually had in my toolkit forever. It's a loop turner. I use it to turn my straps inside out. Just scrunch my fabric, latch it off at the top, then start pulling. And you can even loop it on the machine for a little extra help. I love finding things to help make my sewing process a little easier.
One thing I wish I knew as a beginner is that the little ball on my seam ripper had a use. It's meant to protect your fabric from snagging or getting ripped. Instead of poking the sharp pointy end into your fabric, slide the head of the seam ripper down and inside the seam, then glide through the stitches, just like butter.
Oh, that's satisfying.
Something I didn't know until I was in my 40s. Sewing machines have an automatic threader. See how she loops it through that first hook, through the second hook, and there it goes through. Okay, I'm going to show you up close. Go ahead. So you can see how it just nicely pulls through. And no more frustration when threading your sewing machine.
Tip for those who use Wonder Clips. On the bottom flat side of the clip are little markers, and those markers are actually measurements. So if you line it up to a ruler, you can see that one is 1/4 inch, and I actually need the 3/8 inch. So for this hem that I'm doing, I need a 3/8 inch all the way around and can actually use the line on my clip to make sure that it's straight.
This sewing hack will allow you to sew multiple sizes from one sewing pattern. Firstly, tape together and cut out the largest size possible of your sewing pattern. Then, grab a handy dandy highlighter and trace around your desired size of your sewing pattern. With a pair of fabric scissors, snip into your sewing pattern, touching your desired size. This comes in super useful for multiple nested sewing patterns. With these folds, you can then fold them back, allowing you to access your desired size. If you enjoyed this sewing hack, make sure to like, save and follow for more sewing tips and tricks.
You think you've seen it all? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Do you know that if you get 2 pins and pin them to your ironing board, you can actually make yourself a perfect bias binding maker? See, Get your bias binding strip and thread it underneath the pins, folding them inwards, and then iron to hold the folds. This makes perfect bias binding every single time. If you enjoyed this sewing hack,
There's another sewing tip that's so simple but blew my mind when I learned it. So the other day I was in sewing class and I was winding the bobbin, but the bobbin ended up coming out pretty loose. Kind of looking like this, if I can find a picture. And so when you have all this loose thread and you think, what can I do with this thread now? It's wasted, right? But my teacher showed me the simplest, easiest trick. Let's say, for example, this is my bobbin that is loosely wound. How do I rewind it? Basically, it's so simple. You take a new bobbin, put it where you normally would. Take the old loose bobbin as if it was a spool of thread and thread it like we normally would. But now we use that old thread and transfer it onto a new one.
a lot of people don't know this, but try this. If you're sewing a corner, make sure that you lift up your presser foot and insert a length of thread in between your fabric layers. Put the presser foot back down and walk your needle over one stitch. Then you're going to lift up the presser foot again and put those threads off to one side and insert it in between your layers of fabric, keeping it out of reach of the next seam you're going to do. Presser foot back down and finish your seam as you normally would. Obviously back stitching at the end. Then this is where the magic happens. Clip your seam to remove that bolt and turn your fabric inside out. Here you'll grab those threads and pull until the point is at the corner. Isn't that amazing?
Quick break to just tell you to go and follow this guy. I love him.
Cardboard, the unsung hero of sewing. Let me show you what I mean. You ever sew thick fabrics and you just can't get it going in the beginning? Well, you just lift up the pressure foot, pop the cardboard underneath, and you see how it levels it out real nice? Just put the presser foot back down and continue as you are as it feeds out the back. My name's Cornelius Quiring, and you can get to know me over on my website.
Here's another very helpful sewing tip, especially for my beginners or my people who taught themselves to sew through YouTube. Because I've been sewing for 8-9 months now, and I didn't learn this until a couple weeks ago when I started taking some formal sewing classes. But basically, if it ever happens to you where under the fabric, the threads bunch up a lot, like in this photo, it's happening because you're not holding the thread. You have to hold the thread when you start to sew.
This next clip, we all know the pain of how this feels, and I have lost count how many times I have done this. I know the bloody thing is there, and I still stick my fingers in the way.
Where's the phone? Don't do it. Don't do it. No.
Pause the video right now and drop in the comments what she's doing, and if you know, you know.
Do not do it. Don't 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 do it.
Stop making this common beginner sewing mistake and let me help you. After you stitch a seam, you pull your project, you trim your threads. Well, then you get set up to stitch a second seam, and after a few stitches, you realize that that thread must have slipped out from the sewing machine needle because once you look underneath, you realize there's no actual stitches there. So the thread must have slipped out. You got to stop, rethread the needle, and give it another go. But here's the trick. Leave 5 to 6 inches of thread tail and drape it to the back of your machine in between seams. So when you stop, don't cut close to your presser foot. Leave a longer tail, about 5 to 6 inches, drape them over the back of your machine, and as long as you do that every time, you won't have this issue anymore. I'm Vanessa.
One of my sewing pet peeves is bulky hems. It's just no bueno. So instead, grab your snips and snip into the seam allowance and distribute the bulk in different directions. then fold your seam allowance. This not only makes it so much more easier to sew, but also provides a nice clean finish for your final garment.
You ever tried sewing something and then bam, you thought you broke a needle, but you didn't, so you keep sewing and then it happens again? This could be a sign that you need to replace your needle. Back when I was an embroidery tech at Christian Dior, I used to fix the machines all the time. And if there's one thing I learned, it's that changing needles often is essential. A bent or even dull needle can damage parts of your sewing machine. Not to mention throw off your machine's timing, which could lead to skip stitches. As a rule of thumb, I like to switch my needles out every 6 to 8 hours. For me, that's about equivalent to one project. But you should check your needle often and change it immediately if you hit a pin, hear a funny noise, or even if you see consistent skipped stitches. I work with a lot of satins, and so I use a 90/14, and that's kind of the universal medium. But for lighter fabrics, you would get a needle with a smaller number, and for heavier fabrics, you would get a needle with a higher number. And when you go to put the needle back, make sure that the scarf or the little groove is facing you so that the thread can easily guide through. So if you remember, this is what the alignment looked like before. The needle is definitely bowing and it is off center. And then this is what it looks like after we replace the needle. Perfect. But please remember to disregard your needle safely so that no one gets hurt.